There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I know Anne-Marie was going to be out next week. Or did she mean today, this week? Sorry, she did email me. Oh, maybe she meant today. I'm so sorry, guys. So here you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, excellent. Good.
Great.
Kathleen, if you're on, thank you very much. If you want to turn the control over to me or Maria, that would be fine. Let's see who else is on. I guess it's Maria. Okay. Good. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. A little bit late. First of all, Jed sends his regrets. He's got other family issues that he's been dealing with for a good bit here, so he obviously is excused for that. With that, I'm just going to go for the record for anybody who is watching on Bourne Community TV. Once again, Jennifer McGrail has patched us in, so we are live on TV right now. We do not have dial-in capability. If you have any questions, you will need to go on the Bourne town calendar for today's date, pull up the agenda, and the Zoom meeting coordinates are at the top of the agenda. If anybody comes in as a resident or a guest, please just make yourself known, and then just wave or raise hand on the Zoom icon if you can remember how to do that, and you'll be unmuted, and we'll get your comments after we've heard comments from the committee on a particular item. Okay, once again, I'm Bob Dwyer, chair of the SciTac committee. With us is Wendy Howland, who's our clerk, John Frank, and Brian McCarter. With that, I'm going to go right into the agenda. I'm going to let the voicemail pick this up. I've been getting spam calls all morning. The first item we have is to review the minutes from the October 1st meeting agenda. So if anybody has any comments, I have a couple. I just got to it last night. Wendy, thank you for turning that around.
Yeah, I didn't get it out until last night, so I'm sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 second here to just pull it up, and I seemed to have lost it. Where did it go?
I can bring it up if necessary, Bob.
No, I've got it right here. I have just a couple of corrections. One or maybe two places, Brian McCarter's name was misspelled.
I'll check that, yeah.
And then further down, when discussing the information such as it is that we've received from MBI, they were talking about, and I cannot find it. I wasn't able to annotate my my notes, but redacted is spelled reacted. The tyranny of autocorrect. So if you could catch that. Okay. Anybody else have any corrections?
It looked fine to me. I read it over. Got it this morning.
Okay. I will then entertain, hearing nothing else, I will entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
So said motion.
John moved. Somebody second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Wendy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Bob, aye. Okay, so it passes with one absentee. Okay, let me get back to the agenda here. Um, Anne Marie, go ahead.
Is Anne Marie not here?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mention that. Anne Marie is still on vacation in Iceland. So,
Oh, sweet.
so my guess is that she will not be dialing in. We should not wait for her.
Far too pretty to be hopping on here.
And I think just when she got there, they got a blizzard and a foot of snow. So that's going to make things difficult there. Okay, I'm going to go into the first is the BEAD gap funding and benefit of the bargain. I'm just a little history here. You will recall that we were trying to get the attention of both Baldino and Jody Jones as the management of the whole thing, and they kind of beat us to the punch because they called MJ Mastrangelo, thinking that she was still chair of the select board, and asked what we wanted. And this was October 6th, 8th, 7th, 6th, maybe October 5th. And we set up a phone call for the next on Monday morning, and essentially made the case that we wanted all of the unredacted information on all the changes that have been made in the contracts, all of the changes that have been made in the lists of BSLs and community anchor institutions, and any information we could get, since the contracts had been let already, they should be public information. Essentially, the short answer is we haven't gotten any of that, and I'm not sure they're going to comply. I think for whatever reason they mentioned that their policy is not to release those until later. So hitting with a Freedom of Information Act requests and other things, they have managed to, I would say, delay. Is that a fair statement, Brian?
No, they're denying. They were refusing to release. Period.
Oh, okay. So that's essentially where we sit in 1, 2, and 3. Is that a short enough, précis summary? You know, a lot of that was the lead up to this was all summarized in the meetings on October 1 that happened just before that conversation. We were hoping to hold a discussion in the margins of the October 8th meeting that was attended by Brian, Wendy, and myself. Just to that was where essentially they reviewed their successes, et cetera, as whatever they would like to call it, for the past year. And they essentially said and told Anne Marie that they wanted all this discussion to happen outside that meeting. So we did not approach any of them. And I don't know what else to say there.
When was that FOIA filed?
Give me a second.
I mean, in October sometime, or?
It was right after it was awarded, which is ordinarily when you can request that. Hold
You
on.
sent me a list, Brian, on October 1st, but I think that was before all the changes.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me see what I can find. August 29th was I filed the request.
Okay, thank you. And no response to that yet.
Well, they responded and they refused to
Oh, well.
release the unredacted information.
Did they say why?
They are claiming cybersecurity grounds on things like which model numbers of ONTs and are being used, and the speeds of plans, and where the telephone poles are with the fiber on it, which, in my opinion, is not a cybersecurity concern. So it is. What do you think, John? Like that kind of information? Does
Yeah,
that seem?
they're dodging for whatever. I would. My opinion is they're dodging it for whatever reason. I don't quite know why. I'm trying to figure out. You set out a list, a CSV on October 1st is when I filed it. B Bob PSA stats. Is that the redacted list basically?
That sounds about right for a date wise. Let me check when I. Oh, stats. I might have been something else I got from a.
Because it lists, various towns and locations, and you
Like
sent out.
we got some stuff. Like we got
And also
towns.
B Bob solicitation.
Yeah, we got some stuff. We didn't get all this. We didn't get what we need, which is like we need to know like exactly what FWA tech is being deployed to hit Bassett's in order for us to know how fast it is and if it's any good. So like, which exact frequency, not a cybersecurity concern, but a real concern as far as how good the service is going to be. Details about the backhaul that are going to connect to that. Also, a huge concern about how good the service is, not a cybersecurity concern.
Well, the frequencies are in the, that's in the public domain. I mean, you just have to go to FCC website to find that. You
Yeah.
can find that.
After the fact, after they file for the license, because it'll
Right.
be, they have to get the license frequency and they have to apply. And it's just like, so we won't get that information until it's too late to advise the select board on any of that.
Right.
So
This is Cape. This is not Comcast, right? This is
Open Capes, yeah.
Open Cape. Yeah.
And everybody. So they've redacted the same kind of info for everybody, but from Bourne's perspective, they're withholding, the radio info, where the placement of the tower, where the radios would be, where the backhaul to it's going to run. They're withholding project financials, so like what everything's going to cost, which is really helpful for figuring out if it's economically feasible or not. Given that NTIA keeps beating everybody up to lower the subsidy, we kind of need to know if the numbers, smell like they still work. And so they're withholding that on proprietary financial concerns. There is a statute for redacting on cybersecurity and for, proprietary financial info. But with all exemptions, you apply what's called a balancing test, where does the harm outweigh the good? And when it's extreme, like the harm is almost nothing and the good is great, it clearly passes that. So, I can understand audited financials of a private company that has very little value when there's already letters of credit with beads. So there's already like a third party guarantor guaranteeing the money. So it's not like, we don't really care how strong the company is as long as they got the letter of credit. So like, that wouldn't pass. That's fine, redact that. But like, what does the equipment cost? What is it going to cost you to build this? What's the specific project costs? Those are all reasonable concerns, of value without revealing anything proprietary, because that information gets released routinely after companies bid. So, roughly their equipment costs get known eventually. So it's not like it's anything secret. So it's just really nonsensical that this information is being withheld. It was disclosed in the past. It was disclosed on GAP. It's not cybersecurity concerns. It's not the passwords. It's not the, exact protocols that they're defending the encryption with. And, it's not, everyone knows where the telephone poles are. So it's not like it's like it's a hidden routing that creates any, undue concern. There's only two ways to get there. And so it's information that's going to do any damage. So it's just nonsensical.
And at the same time, they're also withholding what the BSLs and CAIs are exactly like, because we don't know what was taken out and what was left in, do we?
MBI was unaware that this information was being withheld. They were a little surprised. They weren't aware that the list kept changing. So they said they would take that back and look at that. We've never gotten a response. So the list keeps changing, and they didn't even know it was changing. So
Can I make a suggestion here, just in terms of proceeding forward? This might be an opportune time, now that the equipment for Bourne Community TV has been installed and is working properly, et cetera, under the requirements of the cable TV franchise license to Comcast, to go and request that the select board take the annual meeting. I think if we were to had a timely approach to get them in, we could probably sneak in discussion of the service for broadband under the cable TV review. And essentially, since they're going down the same pipe for all intents and purposes. And personally, my cable TV is still screwed up. So
Oh yeah, mine's been awful lately.
yeah. So and yeah, we do note that there were locations defaulted out of the gap plan. So we still don't have an explanation from MBI what occurred and why they weren't aware. So yeah, it's tough when you need more information to get a really clear opinion and you're not being given the information you need to do so. And so for nonsensical reasons. So we really don't know why they're being so cagey. That's what's weird. It doesn't make any sense.
So what you're saying is not only do we not know how they're going to get to these locations, we don't even know what locations they're going to service precisely.
Correct.
Sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, well, is there any way
I can guess, but I can't with certainty. I have a pretty good guess, but I don't have certainty. And
Well,
given that it changes every time we look at it, its certainty would be really helpful.
Would it be, Bob, do you think it would be helpful if we had the select board write MBI a letter asking just for that information? In other words, what are the service locations we're even looking at right now? Because we don't know. We know that they rejected a bunch of stuff that was originally accepted for reasons that we don't understand, we think, but they're not telling us exactly which of those service locations are going to be taken care of and who's responsible for getting the service there.
if we
I think
could
we
get
need another call with MBI because it's so complicated. A letter would be difficult to cover all the issues.
I would think on Anne Marie should be back early next week, and essentially the opinion from MJ was that Anne Marie or some member of the select board ought to be on any calls with MBI, but we can try that again, another call next week. The other route I was going to suggest is under the guise of the annual review meeting of the cable TV service, we'll say, oh, by the way, these are going to improve the service. These broadband extensions are going to improve the service to everybody along those routes, the cable TV service. And if you could describe that, then we get Comcast to tell us what they're doing.
Well, it'll be too late then to influence BEAD. So, it's kind of like we're at their mercy.
Brian, do you have an idea of how much unexpended funds they may be sitting on?
A lot. The Treasury's trying to recall the money. They're sitting on a fortune in unexpended funds. $100 million probably. Yeah.
Really?
So,
Wow.
oh yeah. Yeah, that's why I've, every step of the way I've been very concerned about the handling of BEAD because you need to make it so no matter what happens at the federal government level, the most would get to Massachusetts, and they didn't take the advice. So yeah, about 100 million, maybe more. I think we were about 147 was the award, and it was only like 20 million or so in projects in the last release. So could be 125 million, maybe going
Something
back
like that.
100 to 105 million is going to waste. And the fight right now is to let the states keep their remainder, and it's all going to go to digital equity and laptops for schools and everything but fixing the internet.
Well, we also saw that report that you forwarded, Brian, about the fact that it seems that the powers that be are talking about the idea of pushing more, direct low orbit satellite.
Which are
And
currently falling out of the sky.
yeah, well, I've done a lot of study on how that all works, and there's pluses and minuses to it. If you're living out in the boonies, it's
Oh
a
yeah, like on a
wonderful thing.
mountaintop or something. Perfect.
It
Like,
is but any place where there's a lot of trees, or the further north you go, like in Vermont, which was pointed out, Vermont has got a real problem between the trees and the mountains. It's not so good. So I don't know if any of that, I've tried to look into any of that being resolved, and it seems like it's just floating out there. No one knows what's going on. The government, the NTIA hasn't made any commitments yet.
well, some states have been successful at keeping it like 90+% fiber. So that, a broadband office that is ambitious, has a better outcome than ones that are conservative.
Yeah, I thought like Louisiana was one of the states that got that, and I'm surprised. Well, maybe not, because I don't know about, it's mostly lowlands in Louisiana, I thought. So I don't know why they wouldn't be pushing, direct home satellite there. But, who's to say? It could be a political issue. I don't know.
Maybe potentially parts of Louisiana have upgraded poles. They probably upgraded to the concrete poles that a lot of the hurricane-ridden South gets, and so they don't have the wooden pole problems. So those are very, very strong. So potentially they have a already good pole network, and they're just like stringing it and calling it a day because it's strong. But like, yeah, I don't know the details of down there. There are possibilities in the South that you might not expect.
Right.
Louisiana and West Virginia and Delaware, I think, were virtually shovel ready, so to speak, at the end of 2024.
Yeah.
With West Virginia, the mountain state, so to speak, the exactly the problems about stringing fiber and the expensive stringing fiber for a very low density state. The costs were per resident served were extreme. So I think they're pushing low Earth orbit satellite there. Delaware and Louisiana are dead flat. There shouldn't be any problem there, but I don't know what the holdup has been. In any case, the two Republican senators in West Virginia, even when everything was done, they were about to let contracts, and then the NTIA put a pause on the whole thing. They were banging on the Secretary of Commerce's door and not getting much in terms of response, other
Yeah.
than
A lot of Republican states are unhappy about this because they were about to, fix this problem fairly efficiently and in the long-term best interest at, very large fiber deployments with pretty low cost per passing. And they're just like, really? Like, why are you trying to make me do satellite when I'm getting like sub $10,000 a passing of fiber?
Mm. Well, follow the money.
Okay, so the way forward here is I'm going to talk to Anne Marie about seeing if we can make another call to Baldino or maybe Jody Jones and just ask if we can get some of this information released, and basically point out that we're only trying to help. Okay, if we can identify where Comcast needs more money to do this correctly, or Open Cape needs more money to do this correctly, we've got the expertise and enough information with the extra information that we could actually make some recommendations.
And the one caveat is now that we've shared this with John, in an open meeting, you don't, the kind of things I'm rattling off do not seem like cybersecurity concerns to you.
Not to me. I mean, I'm I'm baffled by the whole thing, but they may be getting some resistance from the companies themselves not wanting to release that information from a competitive standpoint, and maybe that then they're using the cybersecurity as kind of a mask to kind of hold back on giving the information out.
Yeah.
Because I
that's
know
what-
you can tell already that Comcast and Verizon have been very cagey about what they're doing.
Yeah, as we found, even when we try to meet with them to get an exact technology, they'll never commit to it, even in a closed door meeting.
Um, again, if they're digging their heels in and they're not providing the correct information to MBI, and MBI isn't going to press them on it, I'm at a loss to see where we go here. Even letters from the select board perhaps aren't going to do anything.
Well, but I
That's the
think
one,
more importantly is to find out what where the locations are going to be. So at least we know who's going to be served,
right?
and maybe bring up an objection if we find that they've, say, eliminated a community anchor institution that really needs the service.
Well, I'm of the opinion that if they didn't honor their contract, they should be revoked. That's my opinion.
But again, we haven't seen the details of the contract.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
problem. Yeah,
So
we
it's
don't,
just,
without it in hand, it's hard to make these kind of formal opinions.
again, once again, we're making the point that we need more. We'd like more information. If we had more information, we perhaps could help either of the companies in terms of their routing, et cetera, making sure that they serve everybody, and perhaps do some more passings of served locations where they perhaps could sell more service. But we shall see. Okay. Um, With that, I'm going to move on to the next categories where, as far as I know, there is very little activity has gone forward. I haven't heard from, I haven't seen anything about the Tech Council talking about this in a while. The Mass Broadband Coalition item B2 hasn't met in a long time. I have not seen anything about Jed could tell us about Falmouth, but I think they're pretty much inactive. And I don't know what Mashpee or the Wampanoag tribe, Brian, you may know what they're doing, since I think they had their original grant from Verizon canceled for some reason.
It's
So
canceled, then the tribe applied for BEAD. The tribe was not awarded BEAD, and I think Verizon won BEAD in Mashpee. So I gotta double check that.
So I'm sorry, you said Mashpee's grant for BEAD was canceled?
The
Is
one
that
I
Gap.
what I
thought
just
was
heard?
canceled, right?
it
The
was Gap.
So Gap was
Okay.
awarded to Verizon, and Verizon walked from the locations. And let me check my list of BEAD towns. I think I created one and sent it out to, not you guys, to the Tech Council or somebody. Hold on. BEAD filter. I don't have this handy. Where is it? Ah, okay. So I did filter it. Yeah, so I had to generate a file because the data was spread across 5 different files, and so I had to like cross-reference them all in order to even get a simple answer, like who won what town. The Mashpee went to Verizon and BEAD. So Mashpee was awarded to Verizon under Gap. Verizon defaulted on the locations of their Gap. It got put into BEAD. the tribe bid on it in BEAD. The tribe did not win it in BEAD. Verizon has been assigned the locations under BEAD. So they've been twice now awarded the locations. So the tribe is quite a bit upset when, they won it under GAP, which is a more flexible program. Didn't do it. Tribe wanted to do it. Tribe wasn't awarded. Now it's been awarded to Verizon again. So they're pretty upset.
And is
They
Verizon still working on it the second time? We don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. So they hired a consultant. They paid a bunch of money, and they brought in a good consultant to set this up. They're like, okay, well, if Verizon's not going to do it, we'll do it. And they're being reassigned to Verizon again. So.
Okay. Well, I just stay tuned and see how that shakes out. But clearly a decision was made within MBI that favored Verizon, I guess, because Verizon had the gap funds for all the surrounding towns, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Well, I don't know, maybe that's logical, but they're different programs, so you can't exactly say if they're related in the decision making there, I guess.
Okay.
It's surprising. You would think from a public relations standpoint alone that Verizon would want to do this for the tribe, just because to say, here we are, we're trying to help the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, and it would look really good for them to do it, even if it was a money loser up front.
And to do it under GAP, which was with more better numbers,
Just my incomplete knowledge of the distribution of tribe members who are individual BSLs and individual property owners around, they're all over the town. So if whoever serves those locations with either GAP, well, it was GAP or BEAD money, essentially has open access to all kinds of other customers in the rest of the town. They might as well do the whole town. But
so the way it was going to go was they already had an existing tribal network to some of the tribe. I think, I can't be 100% sure of that, but they were going to expand the network to the BEAD eligible locations. And then I think they were going to figure out how they were going to get to their tribe members. Because, essentially you sending the fingers out to whatever's eligible. And then once you're there, you fight on how to get it to the rest of the tribe or the town or anybody. So, they hired a consultant because that gets a little messy. And,
right.
Didn't get awarded it. So.
Okay. Well, there's nothing we can do to help them, I don't think. Okay. Moving forward to item C in terms of the digital equity plan and implementation. In the past month, the following has happened. Liz Hartshorn, who is the person in the administrator's office who had the lead on that $70,000 grant, has accepted the position as the administrator I'm trying to remember where, out in Western Massachusetts. I can't remember which town, but she's been she has left by now. Okay. I met with the director of the library just to see if there's been any activity at her end, and she essentially told me that she hasn't been able to touch anything. They are down 3 positions right now. So this digital equity implementation is way at the bottom of her list to do anything with expanded Wi-Fi, et cetera, outdoor Wi-Fi inside the library per our recommendations. And in fact, I had to wait outside her office while she did Zoom interviews trying to fill some of the positions that she desperately needed to fill just to do what libraries are supposed to do.
Do we have the money? Does the town have the money in hand, or will they lose the grant if they don't spend the funds?
My understanding is the money is in hand.
Okay.
Okay, so
it is or is not?
It
is.
We should probably check on the deadline to implement, because sometimes those come with a deadline to implement.
If it's any kind of, having dealt with this in the public broadcasting business, there was always a deadline.
It would be in the contract. So the lightest lift to get the answer would be to request a copy of the contract signed with MBI or with Cape Cod Commission, whoever it was that it was executed with.
Who's going to do that?
You know what? I will just send an email to Marlene and just ask, is there, just ask what the status is, okay? Because now that would bubble up to her since Liz is gone. And number two, is there a deadline since Liz is gone in implementing this? And what are the plans for implementation? And want to make sure that we don't miss a deadline or some other term in the contract. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, and if that doesn't work out, somebody at Cape Cod Commission should know because they were the consultants on it, right?
Well, they were the consultants on the original plan. They weren't the consultant on the application for the actual grant.
Okay.
Okay, you remember we saw the plan. We came back with our set of recommendations, et cetera, and based on that, a contract was drawn up with MBI, and it's gone forward from there. Okay. Next, American Connection Corps. I have not done anything on that at all. From what I understand, the AmeriCorps is, although they have people in for this year, they're probably not going to go through recruiting for this coming year. So, if that program even continues, there'll be an administrator and there might be a place to put somebody. But right now, there's no guarantee that anything in that program is going to continue. Okay, item E, fiber service to Barlow's Landing cell tower. The cell tower has been approved by the Conservation Commission to the extent that they have any jurisdiction over it. And it's been approved by the planning board. And now because it requires a special exception, it's going to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that hearing has not been held. The planning board voted 8-0-1 to approve it. Catherine Walton was the one abstention because of her fears about possible danger in terms of physical collapse to anybody using the recreation facilities. And from what I understand from the hearing, that if it were to, unless it is picked up and moved off its base, even if it were to collapse right at the base, it would not reach the recreation facilities, wouldn't reach the ball field there. But
I would expect that if they were concerned about like wind damage from hurricane force winds knocking it over, nobody's going to be on the ball field anyway.
It'd be like
true.
a tornado to up and move.
Somebody pointed out, and this was a resident, this wasn't the applicant, that the ball field is completely surrounded by towers with lights on them, as is all of the athletic fields on the high school. And they do not cancel games when it's windy at night, when it's windy, because of the fear that the light towers are going to collapse. So anyway, so this is moving forward. We have no information about what's going to go there, although the applicant said that it would entertain space for any first responder communication equipment on there, provided it leaves enough space on the tower for all likely possible clients to put their equipment, which leads me to infer, and they didn't say it, that the company, I think is Vertex, is marketing space on that tower to all of the companies.
This is standard operating procedure for an independent tower company. The way they do it is they go to everybody and they offer them a sweet deal that's cheaper than building their own tower. And it ends up being something like the first one, they get like a 3% return on investment. They get the second one on there, it ends up being like 6 or 7. By the third one, you're starting to look at 12%, and you get all 4 on there. It's like, they're raking money in. So that's the standard play when you build an independent tower, is to lease space to multiple carriers.
Plus rentals from police, fire, and I believe FCC also, because of the base. FCC also can have equipment on there. So, you know, they would do very well. Just in the past, another group I was associated with had a hilltop site, and just the rental on the site for a cell tower was going to be $20,000 a month for something that was on the order of the size of 6 or 8 parking spaces. You know, a very compact site, which
Well,
was
it's very lucrative, although there is a little bit of capital risk involved if you do have some kind of major failure. But structures of this size generally are not subject to those kinds of failures. When you
Right.
get into tall towers, which I dealt with, you can run into maintenance issues there that can be expensive. But the amount of money that they, American Tower, I'm very familiar with, that they charge is, it's like for the price of the purchase, and they purchased some of the Needham towers, they were recovering their investment in 2 years. It's incredible. So
Okay.
just a matter of having they have the people and the infrastructure in place to do the maintenance, and that's where the trickery comes from. That's why you can't anybody can't just go into the tower business, because they find that you have to really build an entire corporate structure around how you maintain these and how you deal with all of the financial issues. But it is extremely lucrative. So they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. I'm just hoping for better cell reception.
And you're a lot closer to the ones that are up on Route 28 than I am.
Right. Yes. And even they're not. Yeah, they're not. You know that it's fair here, but there are places where literally on my street where the 5G just it drops out.
5G. I don't have 5G
Oh
here.
yeah, I got 5G. I can give 5G in my house, but yeah, yeah, it drops out, and it's very scattered. And it's Wendy's. This will help you if they build there. Your reception will improve tremendously.
That would be really wonderful.
Yeah.
And I probably won't get cancer from it. And if it falls over, it won't take out my barn.
No, well, not.
You have to be you have to be like so close that people are worried. Why did he break into the facility for it to actually be an issue?
Yeah.
Radiation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, radiation did not come up in the hearings from what I could read from the transcript.
It's
Okay.
still
Yeah,
all over
if it's
Facebook,
like
but
if it's out your window and you're sleeping in your bed for years on end and it's 5 feet away, then that's one thing. But
yeah, but
like,
there are state laws and
yeah,
federal laws. In Massachusetts used to have they still might the most restrictive state standard for what they call public and exposure and then worker exposure, and it's pretty high. When you put up a tower like this with RF stuff, you have to file all this with the FCC. You have to go out and make measurements or use predictive measurements, which the predictive are so conservative, it's incredible. Prove that you are not in any way creating any kind of non-ionizing radiation service. And the fact is, you're going to get more. You standing next to your microwave oven, it's just going to give you so much more than you're going to get out of a cell tower. It's ridiculous. And people, of course, who are concerned about this shouldn't be using their cell phones at all, because
Right.
they're putting that right up next to their head.
Or
It's been going on since.
Bob, is this a place where we could bring up those letters that were discussed in the Picasset Village Association?
no, I don't think so. I think we'll just terminate it here because I don't at this point. I believe the Zoning Board of Appeals is going to approve this, and unless a couple of the abutters go ahead and file individual complaints or get some other public interest law firm to file a complaint for them to appeal this, this is going to get approved. That's my particular opinion.
Are there
So,
people, I mean, are there landowners at the golf course that are actual abutters? Or is there like other owners or town land or something in between?
I believe David Emlin, who is the property that wraps around the back of the shopping center, is in a butter. The golf course is in a butter. Bill Henry may well be listed as in a butter. I don't know who actually got the certified letters, but
Mm.
um,
Well,
but
Bill
yeah,
has an actual science background, so I wouldn't be worried
yeah.
about him.
Oh, he's worried about the radiation, but
Oh, he should know better.
well, again, we'll leave it at that. There's nothing
Mhm.
that we're going to have to say. We're just going to watch this to see when it gets approved to see who the Vertex um, takes as a tenant on the tower,
Mm.
and and whether uh, any of the companies, Verizon, et cetera, decide that they're going to use these for FWA. We'll see. We'll go forward from there.
Okay.
Okay. The next item, F, the pole attachment review by DPU and the Department of Telecommunications. I have not heard anything about that. Um,
There are three bills. Kip Diggs, I guess, is sponsoring, and I kind of looked into it, and they put it off till I think December 3rd.
yeah, it's
That's the
item I.
recording date now.
That's
Yeah.
item I below. This pole
Okay.
attachment is separate from that.
Oh, okay.
There was a data call-in that was jointly put out by the Department of Public Utilities and the Department of Telecommunications. I believe just a review of the status, an inventory of all of the poles that are out there, and the companies are dealing directly with those two agencies. So there may be a report that comes out of that, or it might be just information that they put in their files and never let us know about it. Okay, moving on to item G, Comcast Cable TV. Jen has confirmed that Jennifer has confirmed that the TV equipment is in place and is working. So they are in full compliance with their requirements under the cable TV license. So hopefully that means that any involvement with the town council is moot here. So we can move forward and talk about technical stuff as opposed to legal stuff.
So
John,
the statement was just a hair too broad. As you said, full compliance with the contract. Is the full compliance with the equipment upgrade portion of the contract?
true. That's
Right.
all we're talking about here. And that was, again, we were talking about them being out of compliance because they missed that deadline.
They missed the date.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
TV. Yeah, it was the TV upgrade bit of the contract.
Again,
And it,
that's the only venue that the cable license covers. It doesn't deal anything with broadband at all. And if Jed were on board, he was part of the committee when it approved that license extension. But that means that if we want, we can ask for an annual review meeting with Comcast about cable TV and improving cable TV without having to involve the town council. So what are your thoughts on that?
Always a good idea.
we should, I think we should have the, now that that issue has been fixed, we should have the annual review. I think people would attend that and want to share their thoughts directly with the
Well,
company.
we were hearing a lot of complaints at one point. Wendy, you monitor the Facebook output. Has there been a lot of complaints recently regarding service interruptions with Comcast?
It's sporadic, sometimes I don't know whether it's related to a storm or whether there's some other factor going on that's Comcast based or elsewhere based. But every now and then there's this burst of, I couldn't watch the game or blah, 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 blah. And then it kind of settles down for a while. It's not like a low ongoing simmer, although it might be. It's just people are just so used to it. They don't bother complaining anymore. What's the point?
But I mean, I get the texts whenever they're doing maintenance. I've had a couple of outages, and they mostly text me. A couple of them have actually been related to them knocking out equipment to improve it. They're exchanging stuff. I know in one case in my neighborhood where a junction box got knocked over about a year and a half ago, and cables were just kind of sitting out there on some guy's front lawn. They finally came around and fixed it, and when they did that, they knocked us off for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
More to the
I
point,
I
I
don't get any notices from them.
Oh. I don't know, I have a set up the app, and when you set up the app, they normally do that. They'll tell you, and you can also report an outage, but they'll normally, before I can report it, I'll get something, it goes ding, and it goes, we know there's an outage in your area, and here's the estimated repair time.
Hmm.
what people on beautiful Kenwood Road here complain about is that there are uh, short dropouts or short reductions in bandwidth. All of a sudden, the program will go into low definition or then start
Yes.
pixelating, and then it comes back
Yeah.
up. And during the World Series, it was driving me nuts about 8
Oh,
times.
Oh
yes.
yeah, well,
Oh,
I got to tell
yeah.
you what
It
I
was
think that
constant.
is. I think that is not because I have also, when you have the app, I have a Comcast app. I can watch on my little iPad, which you do quite often if there's a game on and I'm eating dinner or doing something else, and you'll see the same blackouts there, and it's not going through the cable system. I'm going to guess that this is a problem between the local Fox affiliate and Comcast. Now, how they're getting their signal, I don't know. But there's a problem there. It's not in the local operation
It
at
still
all.
would be,
Because otherwise, it
still would
wouldn't.
be the purview to complain residents because anywhere in their network that's causing a problem locally is still
Yeah, well,
still
people
their
should complain.
problem.
I'm just saying that it's not anything here with local cabling and wiring. Because if I see it on my iPad, that tells me
Mm.
I'm getting over the internet. I'm seeing the
Hmm.
same thing, and I'm pretty sure there's another thing. If you listen closely, when Channel 25 will watch the news there occasionally, you hear a little bit of audio breakup, and it's in the way I think they're encoding the digital signal.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, what we used to do it where I worked, and most of the stations do, is they actually fiber over their programming to Comcast, Verizon, whatever. And then the Comcast and Verizon also take an off-air feed. So if one fails, they go to the other. I'm not sure why, but it
Ah,
seems like
that would,
I watched it. It was very frustrating. There was one night, and I think the sixth game where they were like 5 or 6 times were just blacked out. And they
Okay,
would come back
that's
like 10
that
seconds
would
later.
account for why we were watching a game the other day, and there were like two different voice feeds running at the same time, and I finally figured out by listening to them very closely that they were the same feed, but one of them was on like a 3 second delay,
Could be.
and there was no way to turn off one of them. So we
Yeah.
just like turned the sound off entirely. Yeah.
Right. But it's
you
right.
turn the radio on.
That's probably not a Comcast issue. It's got something to do with either the Fox network or Channel
Yeah.
25 and the way they were laying the signal.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody there anymore. All the people I knew there have left. So I wouldn't know who to reach out to. I have a professional meeting in December, and I'll see if I can find somebody.
Mm. We just as corollary to that is we have uh, we have two setups. One is the so-called the successor to the set-top box, which is connected directly to the 75 ohm cable. And then the satellite TV is another box that looks exactly the same, except it's getting a Wi-Fi signal, and it gets that from the Wi-Fi router. And the two of them are about as much as sometimes 10 seconds apart in
Oh,
terms of
sure.
the
Yeah.
timing. If I
Mm.
listen to the sound,
Digital
turn the sound
encoding.
up on both.
Yeah, because
So,
anytime you're doing this, what you're doing is actually compressing the data, and so that it takes less bandwidth. But when you do that, you have to have algorithms to encode and decode it, and those algorithms take time.
uh-huh.
And if I can tell you, for instance, in the transmitter site that I ran, the delay was somewhere between 4 and 7 seconds between what my incoming signal was and what
Yeah.
I was actually broadcasting. And that was just happening in the transmitter encoding itself. That didn't
Yeah.
include what the encoding we were doing at the studio. So to make digital work in a narrower bandwidth, you have to in modem the stuff that you're encoding and decoding, and you're doing it by squeezing the data down and they using predictive algorithms and all kinds of very complex math to squeeze the data into a small space. But by doing that, it takes time to squeeze it and time to unsqueeze it again, and that's what you're seeing. So the idea of live over the air TV, it's like if you go to a Red Sox game now, and you try to listen on the radio.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's going to have the same problem. And that's because they're even though you're probably listening in analog, you're also broadcasting a digital signal. Most stations are what they call in-band on-channel digital, and to make it work, you have to delay the analog to match the digital because your radio switches back and forth between the two of them, and otherwise you would hear this blast of delay. So all the digital stuff requires a certain amount of delay time, and this is what you're seeing.
Haven't used this in a while. Fourier transforms. I use those in my thesis.
Okay, there you go. Fourier
I know
transform.
about that stuff.
Well,
With
that's
it,
got, that's got a little bit more to do with frequency and time, the time and frequency domain translation, basically. But yes, some of that's involved.
right. Okay. Well, moving forward from that, again, given these problems, I think we have enough ammunition to call for an annual review meeting about cable TV service, and just ask. Oh, by the way, will when you increase the or decrease the density of connections on each node as part of this expansion, will that improve cable TV service? And oh, by the way, will we get better broadband at the same time?
Yeah.
Does that sound like that's an entree into a discussion with them that we can open there without having to worry about town council, legal counsel involvement?
But
So I'll
I
talk to
think
Anne Marie about that, and then we can write a letter to the again make a recommendation to the select board. In fact, do you want to vote on that now, and then I'll just do it when so we don't have to hold another meeting.
Yeah, we recommend the
Sure.
town I'll make a motion. We recommend the town initiate an annual review of the cable contract.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
second,
Okay, Wendy seconds. We'll do a vote now. Wendy,
Aye.
John,
I
Brian,
Aye.
Bob, aye. Okay, I will talk to Anne Marie first thing on when she gets back, and with her wordsmithing on it, etc., we'll get a probably just an email off to Melissa and to Marlene to see if we can schedule them to come in. Okay. Next item on the list is H, apparent open meeting non-compliance by the Mass Tech Board. I will say that I've been on a couple of Mass Tech Board calls recently, and I did not have a problem getting in. The information in terms of making the connection was there. So they seem to be having cleaned up their act a little bit. In terms of Brian, you made the complaint that goes to the Attorney General's office. Has the Attorney General responded about the old complaints?
They're reviewing.
Okay. Okay. I just saw at this point all we can do is just stay in touch. Regarding item I, One Touch Make Ready, I was supposed to contact Kip Diggs' office to make sure we're in the loop on any notices about that. And John just mentioned that the next legislative hearing on that is December 3rd. My experience with legislative hearings, etc., is that they're pretty opaque. They're generally not open to the public. There's a short report out afterwards, which is pretty perfunctory. Not real substantive. But at least if Diggs will give us the best feedback, I guess. So I will.
That's not been my experience in the last few sessions. It's just you don't get a lot of warning when they're coming. So usually you have to be in close with the staffers, and then they're open to the public, but you don't typically get much warning that this hearing's been scheduled.
Okay, well, again, this is Diggs' playground, so we'll try to get him to notify us and see if we can, have some presence there or just stay in touch with what's going on, because that clearly is something that opens a lot of access. Of course, if they go all to low Earth orbit satellite.
Do you want to reach out to him? Because I don't really have a relationship with him. Maybe you want to reach out?
Yeah, I'll do that. And again,
is he a representative or what? What's his title?
He's representative for, I don't know the district, Mid Cape someplace. Is that right?
Yeah, and so in Mass, ironically, the House members tend to be more powerful, even though there's due to something. But he sits
Um,
on Ways and Means, so that puts him in a very high up position
that's with
as
him.
far as influencing what gets approved, since every bill has to go through like Ways and Means before the full body.
Right. And that also gets, there's a lot of horse trading, et cetera, that goes on with Mariano and his staff, the speaker, in terms of what gets out of Ways and Means and then reported out to other committees. But if it gets killed in Ways and Means, it's dead. So that's a very important gate to get through. Okay. Next is under new business. The first item here. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I have two other things on the agenda, the Digital Access Champion Award and the MBI Connected and Online Grant Program. Are
Yes.
those not, are we not going to
No,
discuss
no.
those?
That's the next one I'm talking about. You know, since
I'm sorry. We got something else under
You said new business, Bob, and that goes down to 5.
right. Okay. And again, since our last meeting, our esteemed member, Brian McCarter, has been nominated as a digital access champion. And so he was present at the, what do they call it? They call a digital award ceremony in Worcester, as was Wendy and I. Sadly, Brian was not the awardee. It was given to the IT director for the city of Boston, who was there with his staff of 10. And clearly he was notified beforehand because he pulled a speech out of his breast pocket and read it at the podium. But we want to congratulate Brian. From what I understand, the nominations pointed out all of his activities that occurred all over the state to help a lot of municipalities get access, do the challenge grant, do the challenge testing, etc. So once again, I want to thank on behalf of the committee and the residents of Bourne, Brian's activities there. And I should say that kind of under the same program, under this digital award ceremony that happened, the state announced the new connected and online giveaway program. That giveaway program has a deadline of tomorrow. And again, without being able to run this through the committee, we approached primarily the library. I approached a member of the library board of trustees and learned that the director of the library and Marlene had participated in the online instruction program for it, and came to the conclusion that the town just did not have the time or the resources to be able to, one, complete the grant, and two, implement it. The library area, the library director, basically said she had all the software basically to be able to lend computers here. Just as background, as part of this program, on a very fast turnaround application process, the state is giving away 27,000 computers. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, they have funding if it's all base model, 27,000 computers, something like $24 million ish to buy computers and tablets and workstations and these like classroom interactive learning board computer wall things, like all kinds of stuff, glucose monitors. It's a weird list, all treasury dollars.
Any applicant had to be able to show that this equipment would be used for students to uh, uh, train or apply for jobs, increase their digital and other education, and or improve their knowledge and access to healthcare. Those are the three categories, Brian, right?
Yeah, and so it had to be all three. And so, the healthcare one, so the bar was pretty low. Like people, if they could do access telehealth through the device, that could check the box for healthcare. But you had to be able to do all three with your program.
And Iria told me when I discussed it with her after the fact that the library, in a perfect world with enough staff, and would be able to do it. But she was down 3 staff members, didn't know how long it would take to refill those positions. Certainly didn't have time to fill out the application, even if we helped her. And last but not least, even within in replacing everything that they had in the library, they couldn't take 30 computers. They couldn't justify 30 computers. So what she did and other towns did is they were talking about trying to put a library consortium together through CLAMS. Is everybody familiar with the CLAMS network?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Through CLAMS, and CLAMS runs basically by each library donating some time from some of their staff to help run that program. And they came to the conclusion that even CLAMS could not get it together, given the extremely short timelines to actually get this thing done. So that was very disappointing. At that point, Brian, again, Brian is I won't call him the instigator, but the catalyst here. Brian started making phone calls to his connections around the state to try to find anybody. And it turns out that most of the regional planning agencies, of which Cape Cod Commission is one, they basically looked at it, and for at least most of the smaller towns that they serve, came to the same conclusion: no time and no resources. And through communication with MBI said that they really didn't have the resources to help the towns get the application together, nor could they extend the grant because of Treasury and the deadline of tomorrow. And go ahead. But Brian started making phone calls, and clearly
Well, at MBI's request, MBI was like, what can you do? Can you get it to anybody? We need to get these laptops out the door. Can you find anywhere? Practically begging me to find a home for them. And so I started making some calls, and yeah.
Brian has a lot of connections. And in the old days, we would call it a Rolodex, and his is pretty thick. And in any case, he got a connection with the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, who has a very robust education program. They run both from their center in, on Washington Street in Boston, basically Upper Roxbury. And they also have satellite services that they operate out of health centers and other things around Boston and some of the big gateway cities, as they're called, in Eastern Massachusetts. In any case, over the course of the early part of this week, Wendy, Brian, and I spent a lot of time on a Zoom call, and we helped their staff write the grant proposal. And the total number of computers being requested, Brian, is what's the latest?
Like 120 computers.
Yeah, 120.
Like a bunch of network hardware. I kind of roughly threw the list through ChatGPT of like, go search me the retail rates, and it was about $150,000 redo of their computer lending program. They do what we used to be called coding classes, but they've moved on to like AI pathways and teaching people how to use AI and code in AI and program essentially in the modern era, since it's evolving so rapidly. And they have a on-site lab where people just come in with questions, and they start leading them into digital equity classes and how to use this, and get some people enrolled into the coding classes from there. They lend out devices to impoverished students where access to the device is the barrier. And they also do like classes for seniors on how to use their various medical devices and their technology. So it was like,
And they have a big walk-in population that comes in needing to send a form to some governmental organization for benefits or for information or whatnot. And when people walk in off the street and need help with that, faxing and computer access and whatnot, then they kind of rope them into more. They also have a lot of existing software, and they'll get more with these new Dell machines for handicap access for people with visual or physical handicaps that make it harder for them to get online. It's a nifty thing. I was really impressed.
Well,
yeah, and they
they've got
were limited by the device numbers they had. So they
Mhm.
Yes.
had to cap enrollment on classes because they didn't have enough devices and they were all aging. And so this is replacing all of that with, modern equipment that allows them to immediately expand their mission. They'll, defer their January class to February and increase its size dramatically because they'll have enough devices now to, meet demand.
More to the point, and what's amazing is the Treasury required some tracking of measuring of impact and with a high level of granularity. And for 4 of the 5 programs that the Urban League runs, they use Salesforce. So they track everything. They do exit interviews, they do entry questionnaires,
Demographics, yeah.
demographics, and all of that goes into Salesforce. And one other program is run through software that the National Urban League has up and is running. So, this was a relatively easy one. So kudos to Brian for finding the connection to these folks. And we were, again, this happened outside of our committee. Just happened to be the expertise that a few of us had, and we just had time and helped them write their grant. So fingers crossed that they didn't miss something.
Well,
Looks looking like they'll
we
get
did.
I think they're going to get all the points. They might have all whatever 100 out of 100 points there. They've checked everything, I think.
And they're going
Um,
to write a nice letter to the select board telling them how helpful we are.
So the one other, again, we didn't tell everybody, Jed and John, about this because we didn't want to cross the border of the quorum and open meeting violations. So only 3 of us participated in this. So Jed had no time, and John, we kind of kept you out of the loop
It's
on this.
okay. My plate's pretty full right now.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we had discussed with the organization they had their own internal IT, and so the judgment was made that we didn't want to bring any technical people because they had that capability. We could stay under open meeting, and they knew their technology requirements better than anybody, so it'd be better for them to with their own internal IT rattle off what they need.
now, Brian, or in our next connection with them, if we could get a copy, I presume that that web-enabled application form would allow them to print the copy of their proposal out. If we could get a copy of that, Iria the lab director, and then Tina Produce on the board of trustees would like to see what a winning proposal looks like. Okay, just in case there's another round on this, they wanted to see what what a very high a high standard would be for getting that.
I can ask if they can print it, or we could ask MBI to generate it with their consent, via records.
Right. Yeah. So
I would think it'd be easier to get it out of the Urban League than MBI.
Probably.
Yeah, you think?
with this equipment, there's no actual dollar signs attached to it, so we're not dealing with financial information. Although, as Brian
Right.
pointed out, you can reverse engineer what this translates into dollar value. But anyway, so congratulations. Thanks to Brian and Wendy for helping with this. Brian, especially for finding the connection. Just one other data point here. The obvious would be something like community colleges. They charge tuition, and all of these services and access to these computers had to be provided at no cost to the user. So,
Or they had to have like a certain period of time when it was open to the public. So like Treasury is unusually flexible, but there's the occasional like really hard line that cannot be negotiated with requirement. And so that's the key with the Treasury grants is spotting them up front, figuring out how to get around to get through them because they're often not that high of a jump.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, let's draw that to a close. If at our next meeting, we will go ahead and hopefully trot that out for everybody to see. And Wendy, you can attach that to the minutes.
Which,
And,
oh,
well,
the report, you mean?
the proposal, just to say here's what the output of the activities of 3 individuals on the committee contributed to. You know, that's basically the bottom line of what we did. And again, it was extra outside of SciTac, outside of anything on our real either scope of work or, you know, even on our agenda.
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay.
we wish we could have done it for the Cape, but you know, no one was ready to move on that kind of speed.
Well, that's the thing, you know, there are so many places that would benefit from this, and the money's there, but they have this ridiculously short deadline. And I mean, it took us probably, we must have, with those of us on the call, it was probably 20 man hours or person hours just to do those meetings this week. And they have like more stuff to do, you know, to finish it up. And most places don't have that kind of time and staffing.
I
It's so wasteful.
I think the story to the select board continues to be that MBI draws up these deadlines, and you know we got to tell them like, look, we aren't coming at the last hour. Like they generate these programs with deadlines that are absurd. And
Mhm.
our feedback to the select board to continue to give the MBI is they need to give the government more time and more warning if they intend to have them part of these programs. Like 30 days is not enough time to even get on the calendar for the select
Oh,
board to
yeah.
give, you know, say yes to do something even when there's $0 involved. So, you know, the feedback continues to be your deadlines are too short and you really should do something about that because it's a barrier.
I think there might also be, this is such a great example. This might be an in to discuss with the select board that maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to give us 5 minutes every now and then and not say, well, we can get you on the agenda in the middle of August, you know?
Well, again, perhaps the cable TV review with Comcast might be an entree to get on the agenda, and perhaps we can have some ancillary time in the margins of when Comcast is in the room and talking, or on Zoom and talking. So, you know, we can just give them an update. I think they will probably want an update of you know, where we sit with these grants. Although I think Anne Marie has already briefed them privately during their retreat.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, with that, I don't have any more. There's nothing else on our agenda today. Other than, again, we have a motion to go forward and ask for a review, and I'll start that process with Anne Marie as soon as she gets back. And we are going to continue to try to get more information out of MBI. Again, that's another discussion with Anne Marie to have her initiate the call as requested by the select board members. And until I have something back on either of those, and an idea that we're going to have some more information coming in from MBI, I don't see the need for an immediate meeting unless we have something solid in hand. So I'm not going to schedule another meeting here, if that's okay.
Sure.
You know, I can call one with you know, within about 4 days notice, if something does come up. So if I hear something on a Thursday, Jed and I can post a meeting on the following Friday for the following week fairly readily. Okay, with that, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So motioned.
John makes a motion.
Second.
John moves. Who's second?
Me?
Wendy is a second.
Yes.
Okay, Brian,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Wendy,
Bye.
Bob, aye. Okay, with that, everybody have a good day and try to pick up more branches in your yard from the windstorm we had last night.
You know, I read that stuff on the Bourne list about, you know, terrible damage and, you know, downdrafts and stuff like that. We lost a lot of pine needles, and that was it. We didn't lose anything up at the top of our hill. And they were saying, you know, over at the golf course or over at Williams by Picture Lake, that's, you know, spitting distance from our house, and we had nothing.
We had
But they were
trees
out
down
there this
across.
morning with the blowers on the golf course because I live right behind the golf
Yeah.
course. But I expected my garbage cans to be blown over, and I got up this morning and they were still standing. So you know,
I walked the dogs before this meeting, and there were tree branches all over everywhere. And
Boy.
the other one on Monday, my neighbor lost a probably an 18-inch diameter cedar that 50 or 60 foot tall that went down across Kenwood Road and ripped up a 4-foot root ball out of her front lawn.
Wow.
Oh.
So it's been chainsaws and wood chippers that have been going for the last 2 days, and there'll be some more today. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the meeting, and thank you all for your attention again. Thank you again, Brian, for all the activities, both past and ongoing, to try to get these things going.
Okie doke.